lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. First of all, we give thanks for the freedom won through selflessness and dedication that allows us the opportunity to gather in public and deliberate in open for all to hear. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Planning Commission of March 11th, 2021 is now called to order. I ask the commissioners to please bring your microphones and speak closely into the microphone. And also anybody that speaks at the podium, speak into the microphone as closely as you can get, please. Okay, before we call the roll, the governor's social distancing guidance for COVID-19 has changed our meeting format. Some planning commissioners are here in board chambers, you can see us, and others are participating elsewhere via Zoom. In chambers with me are Commissioners LaDonte Walker, Brian White, Wayne Thomason, Rick Ramick, and our Planning and Development Director, Kathy Selman. Joining us by Zoom are Michelle Baker, alternate Baker Goldsmith, and is Carrie?
I believe Carrie. No,
Okay.
not at this time.
Okay. We are limited to 20 occupants in the board chambers. We ask you please do not rearrange the chairs from where they are placed. Applicant representatives and planning staff who worked on the staff report will be with us in the room, and some members of the public can be accommodated in chambers if they have signed up to speak. Once you have spoken, though, we ask that you leave the chamber so that someone else can come in to speak. Zoning Administrator Robin Wise will be coordinating speakers who have signed up so that everyone has an opportunity. This is being broadcast in the lobby?
Yes.
Yes, so everybody can see and hear everything going on. If you intend to speak, please sign up now. Names will be called in the order they're on the sign-in sheets. Mr. Stauder, would you please call the roll?
Ramick.
Here.
Thomason.
Here.
Hobby. Carrie Hobby. Michelle Baker.
Here.
Goldsmith.
Here.
White.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Janet.
Here. Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of last month's minutes, please?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meetings are approved, minutes are approved. And may I have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Baker? Goldsmith? We can't hear.
Aye.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. That's okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure you know that we're calling on you. All right, the next item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. Items placed in this section are applications which demonstrate compliance with all applicable city requirements. These items shall not involve discussion by the Planning Commission or the public. May I have a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. All right, the consent agenda will be voted on in one motion, but if any commissioners so desire, individual items may be discussed and/or voted on. Does anybody wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay. Then may I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Selman, would you please read the items on the consent agenda?
Thank you. The first item is a site plan approval. Excuse me. SPA 21019. This is a site plan review for demolition and rebuild of a Chick-fil-A restaurant located at 100 Cornerstone. The recommendation is for approval with 5 conditions. I will read the conditions into the record. Condition number 1, the development site shall be constructed and developed in strict accordance with the approved site and development plan, including but not limited to location of buildings, drives, parking, and landscaping. Number 2, all construction and construction activity are to be accomplished in strict accordance with all applicable approval conditions and with the minimum standards, codes, rules, and regulations and policies as may now or hereafter be required or enacted by the City of Hot Springs, the State of Arkansas, and or the United States of America, including the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, whether or not submitted for staff review or Planning Commission approval. Number 3, separate permit applications shall be made to Hot Springs Engineering Department, and permits shall be in hand for stormwater, drainage, and sidewalks as may be required prior to any work beginning. Number 4, all light sources shall be fully downcast and fully shielded to prevent glare into the eyes of drivers or pedestrians in surrounding areas, and contain all illumination on the subject lot, including but not limited to streets, driveways, parking lots, and other off-site vehicle use areas. Number 5, the front Central Avenue setback shall be 13 feet from the property line. That concludes the conditions for item number 1. Items number 2 and 3 are requests by the City of Hot Springs for new parking lots to be located at 348 and 349 Malvern Avenue. The recommendation is for approval with 4 conditions. I'll read the conditions into the record. All construction and construction activity is to be accomplished in strict accordance with the development plan and all approval conditions with the minimum standards, codes, rules, regulations, and policies as may now or hereafter be required or enacted by the City of Hot Springs, the State of Arkansas, and or the United States of America, including the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, whether or not submitted for staff review or Planning Commission approval. Number 2, exterior parking lot lighting shall be shielded and not create a nuisance to surrounding properties and or vehicular traffic. Number 3, the applicant has an affirmative responsibility to demonstrate ongoing compliance with the site plan and with the conditions of this approval. The violation of any of these conditions so imposed shall constitute grounds for revocation or modification of this conditional use permit by the Planning Commission per Hot Springs Code, Section 16279. And number 4, no signs are being reviewed or approved as part of this conditional use application. That is the presentation for the consent agenda.
Thank you. Now we're going to vote on the consent agenda. All those in favor of all the items, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the consent agenda is approved, and items 1 and 3 are approved. The next item on tonight's consent agenda is new business. There will be an opportunity for the applicant and for the public to provide testimony. Ms. Selman, would you please introduce the next item?
Yes, I want to repeat that item number 4, Silver Key subdivision, has been moved to the Planning Commission meeting on April 8th, 2021. And the next item we have for you is item number 5, and that is Covenant Recovery, a conditional use request to expand an existing residential group living facility at 276 Linden Street. Property is zoned C3, has a future land use plan map designation of commercial enclave, and is located in Board of Directors District Number 1.
Thank you. Yeah, I got lost, Kathy, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think you would like a motion to bring the item on the floor, motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All approved? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I got ahead of myself, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, actually, I think we have still an active motion for approval, right? And you'd like a staff report, I bet.
Yes, I would.
Okay,
How do I
okay.
get there?
Let's do that.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Bring the item to the floor for staff
Right.
report and all that.
Yes, okay. Covenant Recovery is requesting to expand an existing residential group living facility. The zoning is C3. The Garland County Tax Assessor's Office indicate that the brick commercial structure on the property was constructed in 1966. Covenant Recovery purchased this property on December 17th, 2020 from previous owner Quapaw House. Neighborhood commercial zoning is what is on this property. At the time it was approved on the subject property, it was called C4. It was still neighborhood commercial. In 2003, citywide, neighborhood commercial was designated C3. And so in case there was any confusion with the historic documents that were in the packet, I wanted to be sure that everybody understood. It is zoned neighborhood commercial, has been since 1979.
So we just changed the numbers?
We changed the numbers, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. The Hot Springs Board of Directors passed ordinance number 3528 on October 1st, 1979, rezoning the subject property from medium-density residential, R4, to neighborhood commercial. Ordinance number 3528, that rezoning, refers to this property as the Whittington School property, an earlier use of the brick commercial building on the site. Planning Commission recommended approval of that change. Today's neighborhood commercial regulations and the table of uses as amended in 2003 govern the subject application for conditional use approval. Hot Springs Code Section 16-152, Table of Permitted Uses, lists residential group living facility as a conditional use in the C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial Zone. Jeremy McKenzie, owner applicant, provided the following description. Covenant Recovery is requesting permission to house a maximum of 48 people at this time. Under state guidelines set forth by the Department of Human Services as well as ACC, facilities such as ours are required to meet certain specifications to house a certain number of individuals. Based on the number of bathrooms and showers, 6, currently in existence in the building, 48 people would be the maximum number the facility would comply. A ratio of 8 residents to 1 bathroom and shower is required to be maintained at all times. He further stated, our intention for this property is to provide a residential drug and alcohol treatment center. It is required for us under state law to be licensed by certain state agencies that oversee the operation of such facilities. Quapaw House operated this facility under the guidelines set forth by the Department of Human Services, Division of Behavioral Health, as well as Arkansas Community Correction. Covenant Recovery Incorporated is currently in the process of securing licenses from both of the above-named state agencies. Specific program components are regulated by other agencies and are not subject to oversight through City of Hot Springs Conditional Use Review. The Fair Housing Act, 42 U.S.C. 3601, and on from there, a section of the Civil Rights Act applies to matters involving group homes as well as those involving persons with disabilities. United States Department of Justice, the DOJ, provides specific guidance regarding discrimination in housing based upon disability and regarding discrimination in housing based upon disability group homes. The Fair Housing Act defines persons with a disability to mean those individuals with mental or physical impairments that substantially limit one or more major life activities. The term mental or physical impairment may include conditions such as blindness, hearing impairment, mobility impairment, HIV infection, mental retardation, alcoholism, drug addiction, chronic fatigue, learning disability, head injury, and mental illness. The term major life activity may include seeing, hearing, walking, breathing, performing manual tasks, caring for oneself, learning, speaking, or working. The Fair Housing Act also protects persons who have a record of such impairment or are regarded as having such an impairment. Some individuals with disabilities may live together in congregate living arrangements, often referred to as group homes. The Fair Housing Act prohibits municipalities and other local government entities from making zoning or land use decisions or implementing land use policies that exclude or otherwise discriminate against individuals with disabilities. This property is developed and has been part of this neighborhood for decades. It apparently developed for school use. It was approved for medical clinic use. Most recent property owner, Quapaw House Incorporated, operated a residential group living facility with apparently 8 female residents along with their children, and there has been a daycare facility from the property as well. No additional site improvements are proposed with this application. Current property owner, Covenant Recovery Incorporated, proposes to continue a residential group living facility use with increased capacity up to 48 residents. Covenant Recovery Incorporated has other facilities in Arkansas and has treated Hot Springs residents at their Pine Bluff facility in the past. Presumably, the traffic impact of a medical clinic would exceed or be comparable to that of a residential treatment center. This facility has provided a needed service in our community for years. The Fair Housing Act prohibits municipalities and other local government entities from making zoning or land use decisions or implementing land use policies that exclude or otherwise discriminate against individuals with disabilities. Hot Springs Code, Section 16.210, Subsection 5, Subsection D, specifically provides for considering, in the case of a residential care facility, whether the existing supply of facilities of a similar nature and operation in the communities is sufficient to provide individuals with a disability an equal opportunity to live in a residential setting. While the applicant did not petition for reasonable accommodation, consideration of those standards in addition to the City of Hot Springs conditional use requirements and to the Fair Housing Act is sound practice. Zoning for the subject land converted from residential to commercial in 1979. The future land use plan map designates it commercial enclave. The proposed residential congregate living facility for 48 residents is subject to Hot Springs Code standards for conditional uses. The request is consistent with its zoning and with its future land use plan map designation. Parking requirements are met. No exterior modification is proposed. Conditional use standards relate to the land itself and to its surroundings. Who may or may not live there is not included in those standards. Just as with the city's sign code, we are not able to regulate whether a sign is permissible based upon its message. We cannot judge this conditional use request based upon who the residents may be. Contemplative nuns living together who go about in silence are held to the same standards of conditional use approval as are a group of people living in a residential treatment facility. The two groups cannot be treated differently under the law. The finding is that the application provides sufficient information for review. Hot Springs Code, Section 16.2.152, Table of Permitted Uses, lists residential group living facility as a conditional use in the C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial District. The property is fully developed and no additional site improvements are proposed. The facility was for congregate living by previous owner Quapaw House Incorporated. The request to expand this residential group living facility, along with proposed conditions of approval, is unlikely to pose negative impacts on surrounding properties. Residents are nonviolent and non-sexual offenders participating in a recovery program and therefore a protected group under the Federal Fair Housing Act. The recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit request to expand this residential group living facility on the subject property with the following conditions. Number 1, the facility must comply with all building and fire code requirements for congregate living, including but not limited to installation of a fire sprinkler system if required. Any added exterior lighting shall be fully shielded, full cutoff fixtures, contain the light on the subject property, and not create a nuisance to surrounding properties and/or pedestrian or vehicular traffic. Number 3, the applicant has an affirmative responsibility to demonstrate ongoing compliance with the site plan, the information submitted as part of this application, and with the conditions of this approval. The violation of any of these conditions so imposed shall constitute grounds for revocation or modification of this conditional use permit by the Planning Commission per Hot Springs Code Section 16279. Number 4, signs are neither reviewed nor approved as part of this conditional use application. A separate sign permit application, review, approval, and permit will be required prior to installation of any signs on this site. That concludes the presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Selman. Would the applicant now come forward? And sir, if you'll give us your name and your address, you'll have 5 minutes for anything you'd like to add.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name's Jeremy McKenzie, and my address is 206 Little John Trail here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Is it okay if I take my mask?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, I appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation tonight. I'm the executive director of Covenant Recovery. We're a drug rehab program founded in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I've served the community of Hot Springs for almost 10 years now. I've been coming to district court here since 2012. The very first time I walked in the courtroom in Hot Springs, it was standing room only. They were piled out in the hallway. And I saw right there was a big need in this community. We go to court all over the state. We bring residents in from every county in the state. I say every county, not all 75, but we go to all 4 corners of the state. We house nonviolent, non-sexual offenders, primarily misdemeanor drug offenses, petty theft, the different types of situations that arise for people with drug addiction. We have counseling on site. We're not a faith-based program. Sometimes that's confused with our name Covenant. There's a pastor in the back of the room tonight that'll probably tell you different than that. But the core foundation of our program is not faith-based, but we certainly believe in spirituality and allow our residents to participate religiously the way they see fit. We build relationships with churches in the community. We have those relationships with churches here in Hot Springs that'll provide ministry to our residents as the residents want to engage. It's not a required part of our program. Again, I'm here tonight to ask you to approve our request to expand this facility to 48. I'll tell you with very good faith that facility, in my opinion, has housed more than 8 people for a long time. It's been in existence for 25 years. I've worked in the drug treatment business and been a partner in the community with Quapaw for many, many years. They were a good organization. They served a lot of people in this community. They helped a lot of people. And I tell you, when I don't know I don't know why what happened. I don't know. I knew it was coming, but I don't know the reasons. But when it happened, there was a significant void in this community and surrounding communities because of the size of their organization. We were approached prior to them going out of business to possibly step in and help fill the void on the condition that they did go under. we were just cautiously aware, and we stepped up to the plate when it happened. We've been under contract to buy Linden Street since June of 2020, under the sole condition that we would buy the building and be able to take right over operations and house rightfully as many people as would be in compliance there. It was a day or two before December 17th, when we closed on the building, that we found out through working with the City of Hot Springs Planning Commission, which has been super helpful through this whole process, that some kind of way the building was only in compliance for 8 under the Fair Housing Act or something. I submitted a license this morning from 2015 that shows the facility was licensed for 18 people in 2015 under the Arkansas Community Corrections Board. Freedom of Information Act requested it from the state of Arkansas, and that was in 2015. I sent it in this morning. I don't know if you guys have it in your pack. Not here to dispute what Quapaw did or didn't do. They provided a good service at that facility for a long time. The thing I can promise you, if you let us operate at that facility, is we won't bother anybody. The only thing we'll do is clean up those ditches up and down Linden Street that have ugly tires in them as we speak today. We'll clean that trash up. We'll clean it up every Saturday morning. We'll partner with the community. We won't have exceeded traffic, if that's the right term. I understand that that's a concern here tonight. I appreciate the compliment that a member of the community gave us and called us a large-scale commercial operation, but I rightfully don't consider our organization that. We're a very residential, local facility. If we have 48 residents in our program, we would probably only have 10 or 15 vehicles in the parking lot at any given time. You have to think of where our residents come from. Most of them don't have driver's licenses. There's 8 people that live in the facility tonight, and none of them have a car. We have 1 car on campus tonight that the facility owns, that the staff drive to take our people to and from work. We've already built a relationship with National Park Community College here in town. Some of our 8 residents that live in the facility tonight are already enrolled in GED school there and have been attending this week. I'm asking you tonight to let us partner with the City of Hot Springs the same way that we've partnered with District Court for 10 years. I'm asking you tonight to put restrictions on our facility if you see fit. I'm asking you to let us serve this community in the way that we have. And I'll tell you this and I'll close. Even if you deny the request tonight, first and foremost, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'll continue to serve this community for years to come.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I don't think at this time, sir, but if you wouldn't mind staying, probably you'll have to give your seat up and go to the lobby. But if you would stay, we might have questions later.
Well, I'm certainly staying. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a sign-up sheet or? All right, thank you. All right, Mr. James Palmer. And Mr. Palmer, if you'll repeat your name and give us your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure, absolutely. My name is James Palmer. I live at 3601 South Olive Street in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I'm here to basically say that covenant recovery has changed my life in so many words. In the packet that Mr. McKenzie submitted is a letter from my parents. It's basically a before and after picture. I don't think you would recognize me from the before picture. I just wanted to come up here and say that I'm a real person. I've been a long-term resident at Covenant Recovery since 2018. And, before my parents didn't trust me, I wasn't a father to my daughter. Today, my dad actually tells me he loves me and he trusts me. And, the security code on the house that I broke into was because of me. They put the alarm there, but now I have that code. I'm a father to my daughter today. She tells me she loves me, and I come to Hot Springs every weekend to see her. Pine Bluff Covenant Recovery has changed my life, and I don't really know what else to say, but give Covenant Recovery a chance, like it gave me a chance. And anyways, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any
Excuse
questions?
me, excuse
Mr.
me,
Palmer?
sir.
Mr. Palmer?
Mr. Palmer,
Just give us a minute. We might have questions.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
all I wanted to say was congratulations on your recovery.
Oh, well, thank you kindly. I appreciate that.
All right.
Michelle, do you have any questions? No? Mr. Baker Goldsmith, do you have any questions? No? Any of the other? No? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Toth? And again, if you'll please repeat your name and give us your address in 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you
Hi.
for allowing me to speak. My name is Mark Toth. I'm president of the Whittington Valley Neighborhood Association. I submitted a letter that I think lays out very clearly the objections of the neighborhood, and I want to make this clear. We're not objecting to, we're objecting to the size of the proposal, 48 beds. We would, as I said in my letter, we'd object to a 48-bed bed and breakfast, a 48-bed nursing home, a 48-bed hotel, especially since it's not on Whittington Avenue. It's down a very narrow road. There's traffic and safety concerns, as I expressed in my letter. That road is so narrow and is often used by people, including me, who walk to Linden Park. And when you have a facility with 48 people, and you have visiting days, you have staff shifts, you have deliveries on a road that's very narrow with no sidewalks, with deep ditches on the other side, you're putting people at risk. You are putting people at risk. The other point I want to make, and the staff never mentioned the 2013 amendment to the Park Whittington Plan. I hope you all have read it. It is an approved plan for the Whittington Valley, approved by the city board. And in this plan, on page 18, and I referenced this in my letter, there are policies. These are having this plan approved. These are now policies that the city has put in place for developments inside the Whittington Valley. And I won't read them to you. I went over them in my letter, but it's basically that if you have a commercial development, it should not be in conflict with the residential areas. You shouldn't have commercial development. And let's be clear, this is a commercial development, 48 beds. This is not, that's why I think the neighborhood didn't object when it was 7 or 8 beds, because that's a residentially scaled project. When you have 48 beds, you're going to have a lot of deliveries, a lot of people coming and going. It's not on Whittington Avenue. One of the adopted policies in this plan says that commercial developments have to be located on Whittington Avenue, not on the side streets, not subjecting the smaller residential roads to those heavier traffic loads. It also says that there will be no intrusions into commercial intrusions into residential areas. By changing the size of this project, you are creating a large-scale commercial enterprise in a residential area. Hopefully you all got the letter from the Math and Science School supporting our position about how this is inconsistent with the residential character of the neighborhood. By expanding the size of this operation, it's changing the character of what's going on there and makes it a major commercial activity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Toth? Michelle?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Baker Goldsmith?
No.
No?
Let me put my mask back on.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Steve Azal. Azal, we haven't seen you in a while, sir. Well, I haven't. And you have to tell us your name again and your address in 3 minutes.
Good to be here.
Thank you. It's nice to
Yes,
see
it's,
you.
You look
Nice
a lot
to see
better
the
than last time I
the
saw
commission once again.
Oh,
This is great.
You look-
I'm
hey,
Steve Uzell, yes, sir.
You look a whole lot better than the last time I saw you.
I've been in the hospital for 7 solid days and
Ooh.
had 2 surgeries in 2 days. That wasn't a lot of fun, but I'm much better now. Thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So.
okay.
I'm Steve Uzell. I live on 104 Chad Street, and I'm just off of Acres Road. I am a veterans rep, and I work for the state of Arkansas, but I'm also the president of the Southwest Arkansas Partnership for the Homeless Coalition here in this community. I serve 11 counties. And also I serve with the courts from time to time. I've been out for a while, but I know Jeremy, and I know him well enough that his desire to make our community better and also help those who need help. These are trying times, but I'm going to tell you that this is a program that I'm 100% behind. Have always been behind it, and I really believe that this is a needed, much needed project in this community where there's a void and it needs to be filled. And I think that this is an opportunity where this board could take on that opportunity. So please do consider this project. I can't say any more about it other than it's one of the best in the state. And so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll answer them the best I can.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Michelle?
No,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Mr. Baker Goldsmith? Why do I say all three of your names? I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. No.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very
sir.
much. I appreciate it.
Mr. McKenzie, you signed up, but you already spoke, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Steve Garner?
I'm Steve Garner. My address is 3564 Park Avenue. I've known Mr. McKenzie for in excess of 10 years. In fact, in 9 years of that, I worked with him on the branch recovery there at 3564 Park Avenue for 9 years until my health prohibited me from working anymore. So I know Mr. McKenzie's program extremely well. I know that he's very successful. With the Quapaw House not being here anymore, and my program not being in here anymore, we desperately need another good proven program here to serve our community and help our people in this community. And I would strongly urge each one of you to consider this amendment and approve it because of the fact that Mr. McKenzie is a proven businessman, as well as he has been proven that he has a high regard for those that need the help. And so I would urge you to consider this and please approve it. Thank you for your time. If you have
Thank you,
questions.
sir. Does anybody have any questions to Mr. Garner? Mr. Baker Goldsmith? Michelle?
No, ma'am.
Anybody? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Ms. Vanessa Grover?
Good afternoon. May I remove
Yes.
my mask? I'm here to oppose the
I'm sorry.
expansion.
Can you pull the microphone a little bit
Yes,
closer?
ma'am. I will
Thanks.
speak louder.
Name and address, please.
My name is
Oh, yeah.
Vanessa Grover. I live at 949 Whittington, across the street from the 948 Whittington, which is a 96 low-income HUD housing project. I'm here to oppose this expansion on following reasons. One of them is, I'm sure people need a recovery center and people can change. However, putting it at Whittington Park, where there are many people that go to this park to relax, to exercise, children play there, a lot of women walk their dogs at night, and we are going to be putting 48 people in recovery that, as he just mentioned, will not have any transportation. And I think that to make the residents feel safe, and everybody loves Whittington Park. It's a place where you can go and feel safe. And I think to make this expansion is going to just make everybody feel, there's a lot of jogging, people that are jogging at night, people that are jogging in the day, people that jog in the middle of the road. Even when you're driving, our speed limit is 25 miles an hour, and we have to follow behind the people that are jogging, sometime in pairs in the middle. So I think it's also going to cause a lot of congested traffic. And I'm sure that this project is a great project. I hope that I can maybe persuade you that putting it in Hot Springs National Park, Whittington, right across the street, where people want to go to feel safe, that putting it there is not the best place to put this project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Grover? Michelle?
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Goldsmith?
No.
Anybody up here? No? Oh, and she left anyway. Okay. Mr. Mark Allen? And I do need your address, please.
How do you do? Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I've known Jerry McKenzie. Well, Mark Allen, is 321 Fars Landing Road, Hot Springs,
Thank you.
Arkansas. I'm the court administrator for the district court here in Hot Springs. Since the pandemic began in June, we probably had close, as of today, over 25,000 pass through our doors in the district court. And as a result of that, we have some specialty programs to deal with certain individuals. We have some that may live in the woods just down the street in a tent. We also deal with professionals, though, that have the same issues as those living in the tent. And with having that said, in order to deal with that, we have multiple pieces of puzzles here in the room tonight. It's just not just one. But Jeremy is probably one of the bigger pieces. We have Richard McGrew, Families in Addiction. Anybody, I guess, I'm not won't have a show of hands, but how many knows somebody who's had a family member or a friend who's ended up in being involved in drug or alcohol or mental health issues? In this case, again, back to the puzzle pieces, we have Richard McGrew, Families in Addiction. He comes and helps the families who are dealing with these issues. So on the other side of the coin, we have Jeremy McKenzie, his program. He didn't just look like that tonight. He wears a coat and tie every time we see him in court. And the individuals he brings to court, they're wearing ties as well. They're professional looking. And and it's not just, somebody who may be living in a tent in the woods. We're talking about professionals who may be a pilot or a CPA, doctors who've encountered problems of one form or fashion involving drugs or alcohol. We have specialty courts now with drug addiction, DWI, mental health, veterans courts, and again, we apply his program to all those. He's been an intricate part to our program, and we appreciate him, or the opportunity of him maybe coming to town and us taking a bigger advantage of his services. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
I've got a question. First of all, how many of these proposed people that will be going in here are court-ordered into treatment?
I can't say all are, because we'll have some, before they even get to court, they realize, hey, I've got a problem, and they'll go ahead and enroll into his program. But those who they get in front of the judge, the jail is full a lot of times, and it's challenging to get them to stay in there. It's just the nature of the beast. I can't brag enough about the facilities and the people who run it. They're wonderful folks, and we work hand in hand because they have some intricate programs inside the detention center that we take advantage of. But not everybody's, if they've only had a one-time offense, it may not make sense into sending them into the detention center to their program, which is very good. But one-time offense, they have kids and a wife maybe in town. This makes better sense. It's not a one-stop shop, but we're pretty selective who goes where. But again, not everybody is court-ordered into his program. He may be better at answering that question than I.
I've seen that district court. I served as a volunteer for years under your predecessor. I served as a volunteer in Judge Schweitzer and Judge Ohm's court.
Both of them good men. And tomorrow
Yeah.
we have Judge Schweitzer there again today. We'll have her again tomorrow for mental health and veterans court.
And I was there with her dad.
Yeah, he's a good man, and she's following the same footsteps. Good person.
Okay, that was my basic question, is how many were court ordered and what the restrictions were on the,
We
and
leave it up to the individual. We leave it to Jeremy. And again, if they do mess up, there's swift action. They're not there.
they're still on, are they probationers, basically?
We'll
Is
end up
that a
putting them
part
on
of their
as well,
probation?
So we'll have a checks and balance. If they mess up there, they messed up, and they
Yeah.
may be given another opportunity, but there's a zero tolerance. I wouldn't mind having that program in my neighborhood. I wouldn't mind having his program in my neighborhood.
Right.
Again, I mentioned multiple pieces of the program. I'd be remiss without mentioning Steve Adele with the job workforce. We work
Mhm.
hand in hand with him, and again, with Richard McGrew, and there's several others we'll work with in
Right.
combination. I know we dealt a lot with Jeremy in Pine Bluff. He had some making, I know one individual making over $10,000, and they all have jobs. There was one working at the casino center, not serving drinks, but actually repairing the slot machines, very intricate work and skilled work.
Well, a lot of these programs were just coming about when I was leaving my tenure with the court, so I'm glad to see they've continued on.
Well, thank you for your support, and thank you for letting me speak on Jeremy's behalf.
Thank you,
Any other
sir.
questions?
I don't think so.
No?
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Mr. Richard McGrew. And even though we pretty much know you, we still need your name and address.
I'm sorry.
Even though we pretty much know you, we still need your name and address.
I'm Richard McGrew. My address is 293 Overview Circle, Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Thank you.
And first of all, let me thank you all for serving. I've sit there in that chair for several years and sit in the chairman's chair.
You did a
And
better
I know
job.
y'all get paid so much to do that, you know, and it can sometimes be a thankless job. So I appreciate y'all being there to do that.
Thank you.
Let me share with you about Jeremy. First of all, let me say that to the statement that it's a big commercial complex. It already is a big complex. He's not building anything new. It's already there. Also, I worked with Qualpah a lot. I'm familiar with a lot of the drug programs, whether it's Shalom or RPM or Harbor House or all of them. I can tell you, I can vouch for Jeremy and his character. I've been to his facility in Pine Bluff, his facility in Malvern. He really cares about those people that he puts in there. But he also cares about the community. One thing I can tell you is that he will not hurt the community. He will add to the community. He will clean up that road. I haven't been there since he's got it, but he's probably already cleaned up the yard and around it. And he will make sure if one of his guys is causing problems, he will be on it like that. But what the neighbors will know is they won't even know that they're there. And so I just want to vouch for his program, and I could go on about a lot of things about that. I could go on. I know what it's like to be under the pressure of having to vote when you have a lot of people talking to you. But I would ask you this. If it was first of all, similar to what Mark said, if I ask who here, not just here, but out here and all of them, can raise their hand and say they don't have a drug and alcohol problem in their family at all. It's getting worse in our society, and we need this. You know, if I was to ask you if it was your son that was out there doing drugs, you had spent a lot of money, he's skin and bones, he's making your life miserable, your family miserable, and whether he's about to go to jail or not, I know that his facility don't just take people that go through the court program. If you're a mom and dad and you come talk to him, I've got several children in his facility when their mom and dad call me. I do run a program called Families in Addiction, which is a faith-based support group for people who have a loved one in addiction. But if it was your son, and you know that he could go in there when he's nothing but a frame and you're worried about whether he's going to be alive tomorrow, and you'd give your life for him in a New York second, and you could change him from that to what that young man that testified before, would you do it? You know, let me tell from a parent, from that point of view, it's a really tough place to be. And we need this. He serves a big part of our community. I get that, not in my backyard deal, but that this will not be a bad impact on that neighborhood. I own a 25-unit senior living facility in that neighborhood. I can get signatures from all of my tenants there that would glad to have that place there. And I thank y'all very, very much.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Representative McGrew? Michelle?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Baker Goldsmith?
No.
Thank you, sir. It's
Thank
good
you
to
very
see you
much.
again. Mr. Howard Lee Kirby?
Good evening. I'm Howard Lee Kilby.
Kilby, I'm sorry.
That's all right, ma'am. Kirby is actually a more popular name. Kirby vacuum cleaners were around for a long time.
But I've
I
seen
will
your
say
name
something
that was-
about the name Kilby. One day I was at the University of Hawaii and I looked up in Who's Who in the World to see if there was a Kilby. The person that invented the microchip was Jack St. Clair Kilby.
Ooh, congratulations.
He was acknowledged in 2000 he shared the Nobel Prize for physics for inventing the microchip. K-I-L-B-Y, Kilby.
And I apologize.
That's all right, ma'am.
We do need your address.
I live at 207 Ledge Rock Road in Hot Springs, outside the city limits, but I own, and the house burned down recently, so I'm presently residing at the Arlington Hotel thanks to AAA insurance. I own 642 Whittington Avenue, and I love the Whittington Avenue area. I've heard some wonderful statements about the integrity of the program that's being suggested for the Whittington Avenue area, and I'm sure everyone is absolutely right. But I also heard a young lady talking about children walking in the Whittington Avenue area. We have the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts nearby, and those kids use the Whittington Park area. There are a lot of elderly people in the Whittington Park area. We have crime in the Whittington Park area. And personally, and I've had drug problems in my family. I've just got a nephew that got out of prison not very long ago for doing drugs. So everybody's heart's aching with the drug problems that's happening in this country and all over the world, in fact. But I definitely am speaking against the idea because I think it's not going to be beneficial to the Whittington Park area and to the elderly people who are living in that area. And thank you very much. I appreciate the honor of being here tonight, and God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kilby? Michelle?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Baker Goldsmith?
No, thanks.
Anybody? I guess I need to call names when I ask that, don't I? Rick?
No.
Thank you. Wayne? No. Brian?
No.
LaDante?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for coming. Okay, nobody else has signed up.
Were their names on the back?
Mr. Kilby.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
thank you. Sure.
Are we?
He'll make sure that nobody
signed
was
up out there?
unaware of the signing opportunity.
There's just one additional gentleman that would like to
Okay.
speak.
Sir, if you would please step forward and tell us your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Chris Barnes. My address is 447 Tram Cutoff in Malvern.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you spell your last name for me, please?
Barnes, B-A-R-N-E-S.
I did such a poor job of the last one. And I'm sorry, what cutoff?
Tram.
Tram. Thank you. Okay. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after hearing some of the other people voice their concerns, I felt convicted that I had to. As far as the neighborhood, you know, with the crime and the parks and and the people feeling unsafe. I've been associated with Covenant Recovery since 2014 in some way, shape, form, or fashion. As a client at first, all the way to a supervisor, you know, an employed supervisor for Covenant Recovery. As far as the parks and the ditches and the elderly people and the college kids feeling unsafe, every neighbor Covenant Recovery has ever had, whether it be Malvern, Pine Bluff, whatever, has been so very happy to have those as neighbors, have them as neighbors. There hasn't been a weekend that went by at either place that the guys aren't mowing the yards, community cleanup. If there's an elderly lady that lives across the street, we're mowing her yard. And I can say this because I was the one that usually headed the crew to do it. Every Monday morning, we did trash pickup. We all loaded up on a 16-foot trailer. We started at 4 a.m. and we didn't finish till 12 noon. And this was every Monday. We went all over town to the park, city parks, cleaned up every bit of trash that we could find, free of charge. We weren't getting paid for it. We didn't, you know, it wasn't a punishment. You know, it's just giving back. And that's what Covenant Recovery and Jeremy McKenzie stands for. He's never asked anybody for anything except for someone to believe in, someone to believe in his cause. And I can honestly say that I wouldn't be standing here in front of you guys tonight if it wasn't for him. He saved my life, along with many others. Where many have given up, he never did. And there's not enough good I can say about him.
Thank you, sir.
That's my time.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Barnes? No. Adante?
No.
Brian?
No.
Mr. Baker Goldsmith? Michelle Baker?
No.
Rick? No. Wayne?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Okay, those who have signed up have spoken, and the public hearing session is now closed. Planning Commission will now discuss amongst ourselves. Discuss.
I have a couple of questions for Kathy. The street that was brought up in question as being so narrow, did the fire department sign off on that?
Yes, there was no issue raised by the fire department.
Okay, so if there's no issue raised by the fire department, I can't see where there would be an issue with delivery trucks or things of that nature.
They have negotiated that street in the past.
There is a gravel pit across the road from this, owned by the county. The county dump trucks pass each other every day.
Okay. Second question for Kathy. Mr. Toth brought up this 2013 amendment to the Park Weddington plan. Is that a legally binding document?
It is. It was presented to Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommended approval to the board, and the board did accept it. And I would like to say that had this been a request to rezone, that plan would have been used to establish whether this is consistent with an adopted plan, which is a standard for rezoning. This is existing commercial zoning. There are many uses that are uses by right, including convenience store, that could go on this site with its current zoning. It has been zoned C something, neighborhood commercial, since 1979. And when I got Mr. Toth's letter prior to sending it to the planning commissioners, I took a look back through Mr. Toth's own correspondence on requests for commercial in existing residential in the Whittington area, and in 2013 found a letter from Mr. Toth on behalf of the neighborhood supporting a rezoning from residential to commercial right behind the alligator farm.
I see. Okay. I have one more request. It's a question that I have for Mr. McKenzie. Could we call him up back up?
Mr. McKenzie is waited for us. Thank you for saving me.
Mr. McKenzie, I have just one question. It's basically I'm in need of a clarification, sir. Am I to understand that the current facility will be remodeled on the interior to facilitate the 48 bed, or is there going to be any more additional construction?
No, sir.
Okay, the existing structure is set up for the 48 bed.
Absolutely. In full compliance with the state agencies, both DHS, Department of Behavioral Health, as well as ACC.
I know how many agencies you answer to, sir.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
quite a few.
Yes, sir. Full compliance, just the way it sits.
All right.
The only addition will possibly be addition of a fire sprinkler system, which was recommendation by staff, depending on the approval of the fire marshal, is my understanding. I've talked to Mr. Tom Broughton once. He said he'd be happy to come walk through my facility, look at documentation from both the city and me, and make that determination with me whether or not, because part of our building has a fire sprinkler system now, and the whole building has a fire protection system, but only a water sprinkler system in one half of the building. So the question becomes, do we have to have the water sprinkler system in the other half? And I think that'll be determined by the fire marshal, is my understanding. And again, if it has to be, then we're prepared to proceed with that. That would be the only remodel, if that's what you would call, but that would not really be a remodel. We won't do anything like that.
Well, that answers my question. I don't know if any of my colleagues have further questions.
I have one question. I'm looking at the drawing on page 146. Where's the kitchen?
There's a very small kitchen in the building now.
Okay.
I can't see page 146 from where I stand, but it's in the I'm going to call it an octagon, maybe, part of the building.
That's what I'm looking at.
But there is a kitchen there now, and in order for us to be in compliance with the state agencies, we will have to bring that kitchen up to health department standards. And I think there'll be a small modification that'll have to be made to that. I wouldn't quite call it a remodel. There is a vent-a-hood there, commercial grade vent-a-hood system in place at the facility now, which will pass compliance with the health department. There's an Ansel system that I have already had upgraded and current tagged by the fire protection people that regulate that. And so a couple other maybe small modifications that would have to take place inside that kitchen to pass health department approval, but that will be required by us, by those state agencies that I've talked about that we have to be in compliance with.
Okay, so you furnish 3 meals a day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. McKenzie, I'm not familiar with these kind of units. 48 people seems like a lot of people in that square footage. It's 218 feet per square feet per person, and that's just your 48. That's not counting staff. You have to take the kitchen off, the bathrooms off, the dining area off. Your people are going to be pretty crowded.
The state standard in the standards regulates 50 square foot. Matter of fact, I think it's 48 square foot per residential resident in the sleeping areas.
In the sleeping area?
In the sleeping areas.
50 square feet?
Per resident inside the sleeping area. So a 300 square foot bedroom could essentially house 6 people in full compliance under state standards.
Now, how many will be sleeping in each bedroom?
There's a bunch of bedrooms. I mean, up to 48 across the whole building. I don't know. Obviously, we'll try to spread them out. There's no sense in putting multiple people in confined space when we have plenty of space to occupy. And we have plenty of space in this facility. So some of our bedrooms are almost half as big as this room. There's a couple of bedrooms in our facility, half as big as the room we're in today. And in a room that big, maybe 8 people, maybe even 10 in a room that big would sleep in that sleeping space.
And the restroom, would you say the bathrooms, the shower area, you only have to have, what do you say, 8?
Yes, sir.
48 people?
Yes, sir. It's 8 to 1, again, into the state standards. 1 bathroom, 1 shower, toilet, sink per 8 residents.
I see 6 bathrooms.
I'll count
7.
There's only 6 showers.
Okay.
And these are existing showers that are in place right now, fully operational. And I don't know how long it's been there, I guess forever.
That's all I have. If it
Commissioner-
meets code,
Yeah.
I mean,
Commissioner Thomason brought up a question for me that has absolutely no bearing. Is there an age limit on the people you help in this facility?
Not exactly. I've housed a gentleman up to 74 years old before.
Mm-hmm.
He was court-ordered from district court here in Hot Springs on DWI 4.
Boy, that's sad.
And some kind of way, district court here in Hot Springs did something from a legal standpoint and helped the gentleman get to my program. DWI 4 in the state of Arkansas carries a mandatory 1-year prison sentence in the Arkansas
whoa.
Department of Correction. And because of this gentleman's age, and I don't want to say the severity of his mental health, but he was 74 and a hardcore alcoholic. I'm not exactly sure what district court did. Obviously, it was legal in some form or fashion, but was able to manipulate under the statute to help him be sentenced to our program. He was a resident of Hot Springs Village, and he stayed in our program 6 months. He completed the program and moved back to.
Cool.
He's since passed away, and his daughter was so grateful. About 2 years ago, he passed away, and his daughter was so grateful she gave us everything out of his house, called us and donated the
Wow.
whole house. We sent a truck and trailer to get all his furniture. We use stuff like that that goes in our common areas, couches, nightstands, TVs. Furthermore, we gather household items like that for when people complete our program and then gain independence and move into their own location, which is obviously the long-term goal, is for somebody to fully complete our program and stand up on their own 2 feet and establish residence in the community long-term and with their job. And so then we use those household items that we secure to help these people make a start in their own place. When you have nothing and you're moving into a new place, a recliner and a nightstand come in handy.
Yeah. On the other end of the age spectrum.
18,
Okay.
and very, very seldom we'll house a 17-year-old with a parent's permission if he's close to becoming 18.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
you house men and women?
We don't at this facility. Will be men only.
Men only.
And I'm pretty sure that the state has changed the standards, at least at ACC, to have gender-specific facilities. When Covenant started in 2012, we used to be co-ed when we only had 1 facility. And I think that we did a super good job of managing that facility. But I'll tell you all, as we stand here tonight, it is a task, and it requires maximum supervision in order to be effective. And so we don't do that anymore.
I
So it will
mentioned
be
your
male
name-
only.
I mentioned your name last night to a friend of mine, and he was very complimentary. Mike Prince, the Garage Church here in Hot Springs.
Unfortunately, I don't even know Mike.
He's been to your facility in Pine Bluff.
Okay.
They do
I've
great
just met
work
so
at the
many
Garage
people.
Church.
Yeah.
I've heard of the Garage Church here in town, and I meet so many people at District Court. I bet we've taken 300 people to Pine Bluff from Hot Springs in 10 years. And I know that sounds like a lot, but I'm talking about 5 or 6 or 7 a month since 2012. I mean,
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. McKenzie, maybe to help put some people's mind at ease. Can you tell me about the ratio of
Ooh, we lost you, Michelle.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the ratio of people who are here for help to the employees there. Are they, I'm wondering, are these people going to be wandering around Linden Park unsupervised, or are they pretty well supervised? I'm trying to put everyone's mind at ease a little bit about your procedures.
Sure, thank you for the question. Our facility is staffed 24 hours a day. The state standards regulate at least one staff member per 25 residents on campus at all times. So with 26, we have 2. So at all times, there would be 2 staff members. At all times, the residents absolutely are not to just come and go from the facility under their direction. It's completely structured, completely supervised. The only place they're allowed to go is directly regulated by our staff. Our residents do work. We help them secure jobs in the local community. They do GED school, as I mentioned earlier. They go down to National Park. Now, they are allowed to go to these places unsupervised, if you will, but we're talking about regular members of the community here. We're not talking about people that absolutely need supervision. I've heard a bunch about the people at the park and this and that, and I just want to say that our people are welcome to play at the park too, and that we're going to play at the park, and we'll be very, very conscious of the community. And if we see the kids from math and science school, I can promise you that we won't just take a group over there to the park at that time, because it would infringe on what the community was doing. But on Sunday afternoon, if there's not a group there, we very well could play. But we also have a very big area that's our area and that we already own and that we would utilize. First, I could only see us going to the park on an organized activity if we were going to possibly play soccer there in the fields or organize a small softball game or play basketball back there on the courts. This Linden Street facility is by far the nicest facility, and it's the nicest area that Covenant's ever been a part of, and we're very excited to be here, and I promise we'll do a good job.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion has come to an end, and it's time for a vote. I have an approval for, a motion to approve item 5. Now we need to have Mr. Stoddard call the roll.
And is that a motion to approve with the findings and conditions of the
I
staff
forget that
report?
part. Yes, I'm sorry. Absolutely, with the findings and conditions as suggested by the department. Thank you very much. Get all carried away by his excitement. Now that we're going to vote to approve or not, based on the findings of the planning department, would you please call the roll, Mr. Stoddard?
Okay, motion to approve with findings and recommendations of staff.
Yep.
Thomason,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes. Yes.
Baker Jackson Goldsmith,
Yes, approve.
White,
Yes.
Walker,
Approve.
Ramick,
Approve.
Janet.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is 7 to approve and none not to approve.
I wonder how the
So
audience
the item is
feels.
approved.
All
I
right.
don't know how the audience feels out there.
Yeah. I wonder what they think.
Thank you all very much.
All right. Now, the next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Yes, the director's report focuses very much on the 5 seats that will come up. As of May 1st, we are going to lose several of our planning commissioners.
That's a lot all at once.
Yes. We need 1 resident from District 3, a resident from District 5, a resident from District 6, 1 position for resident of Garland County within the adopted planning area, and 1 alternate position for a resident anywhere within city limits. And so those who are watching, those who have participated tonight, and if you know anybody who might be interested in the absolutely best board and commission assignment that there is in the city of Hot Springs, which is to be a planning commissioner, please encourage those people to contact City Clerk Harmony Morrissey, get their applications in, and the applications will be accepted until noon on Friday, April 2nd. So that is rolling right at us. And there are other boards and commissions open too, but those are the 5 that are most pressing for this commission. So,
I don't think that Representative McGrew helped you any when he disparaged the pay.
well, there you go. There is no pay. But it's a...
Bottle of water unless we're.
Other ways.
Unless we're
Right.
out,
That's
that's
we're
right.
out.
So that is it, and thank you all for your careful consideration tonight, and thank you for being a planning commissioner.
I make a
And-
motion, we adjourn?
Second.
Okay?
I was gonna hit it too fast. I don't know why I forget to say things.